I'm Jimmy Fallon. Welcome aboard the Gyrosphere, an amazing machine made possible by science. Your safety is our main concern, which is why you're behind our invisible barrier system, which protects you from things like Dilophosaurus venom. One drop of this can paralyze you, so watch out. Is this real? It is?
Hey, what's going on, guys? It is Jack here, and today I'm super excited to show you one of my favorite MOCs I think I've ever made, and I know I say that a lot, but this one is special. So about 9 to 10 months ago, me and Paulville MOCs on Instagram thought it'd be a fun idea to collaborate on something Jurassic World, since we both love the Jurassic Park franchise, and it's just, we'd click. Fast forward to now, and we're both stuck at home, so we finally decided to go through with this collab and make Gyrosphere Stations. And funny enough, a couple days after we both started building our Gyrosphere Stations, LEGO actually released an official image for a Gyrosphere Station set, so perfect timing. But without further ado, the build you see in front of you is a fully functional and park operational version of a Jurassic World Gyrosphere Station. Before we jump in, if you haven't seen my last video, it was actually a build log of this MOC. It was just basically a bunch of time lapses and me talking about what I was going to do when making this and how I built it and basically stuff like that. It wasn't too in-depth, but it was definitely something that actually got me excited to fully post this MOC on YouTube. And the reason I made that log was because this MOC is probably my most complex ever, at least on the left-hand side. So what's so special about this MOC to me is that I got to really establish a really cool terrain technique that I am definitely going to be using in future MOCs to come. This Gyrosphere Station is essentially built into the side of a cliff or a side of a hill or something like that with a bunch of jungle foliage overgrowing it, and that was a perfect way for me to test out this new technique that I've already tried once before, but really make sure that I could actually make it look stupendous. That's vocab. If you'll look, this is actually my favorite part of this MOC, and you'll see why. This thing is using a ton of mixel joints to actually make a bunch of crazy angles here. If you look through the vines and through all the foliage, you'll see a lot of these smaller pieces are actually set at angles, and they're not exactly resting on top of each other with a stud connection. So it looks crazy messy, and it definitely looks illegal, but I assure you, 100% of the techniques used to make the terrain are legal. Now, the foliage might be a different story. A lot of that is just resting in place, but the terrain is legal, and that's something I can talk about. But even though the foliage is pretty much illegal, and if you tilted this thing upside down, it would probably fall off, and you never would because it's a structure, but just saying. I forget where I was going here. Yes, I made this thing look super overgrown because Jurassic World is on an island right on the equator. It's very tropical. All these dinosaurs need to live in warm environments, so I had to make this thing look super jungly and super rainforesty, I guess. So you'll see vines and a bunch of leaf pieces, a bunch of different kinds of flowers. There's a buttload of different plants here, and while we're up here, you'll actually see there is a hatch that will take you down into a building down below, but more on that a little bit later. So I continued this foliage all the way around, even on the right-hand side, which is where the Gyrosphere track is. It's not nearly as overgrown over there because the Gyrosphere actually has to roll somewhere, but you can still tell it's in the jungle. And plopped right in the middle of both of these foliage sections is a big gigantic canopy, and basically this is the front waiting line to get on the Gyrosphere. So you have a bunch of different lines that would probably continue inside of the building where the gift shop is and stuff like that, which I actually did not build, but there would be a gift shop and probably a place for you to eat and something like that. But if you actually were ready to get on the Gyrosphere, you would wait outside in line, and thankfully you're actually able to look out and see all the dinosaurs in the field. They're all herbivores, so you don't have to worry about getting eaten, but basically you go through these double doors, stand in line, and eventually you'll be able to take your turn through this opening gate and go inside a Gyrosphere. And I sure am jumping around on this MOC a lot, but since we're at the Gyrosphere, the track is very simplistic. It's basically using a bunch of different kinds of slopes, so you'll see the 2x whatever slopes that basically are the biggest slopes I was comfortable with using for this Gyrosphere, and some cheese wedges to go on top of that. That way the Gyrosphere could actually roll, and it just makes sense. On the other side, there is an ACU person or a Jurassic World kind of employee that basically confirms whether or not people are safe inside the Gyrosphere and whether or not it's okay to send them off into the field where they can be potentially trampled by anything, but not. yeah. On the complete other side of this, on the complete opposite end pretty much, there is actually a building that is kind of subset into the cliff or the hill. That hatch I mentioned from earlier will actually take you into this room, so if you wanted, you could actually access this from the roof, but pretty much the door is probably the easiest way in here. This is an ACU closet where there's a bunch of different crates that store kind of tranquilizers and a bunch of different guns and tools that are helpful to repair gyrospheres or potentially tranquilize a violent dinosaur that is getting a little bit too close to the people or something that's just causing problems. It's basically just a safety measure. You'll see some custom-made crates here, which I think are pretty cool. They're not exactly crates, more like containers that would contain tranquilizers or some sort of heavy medicine that would knock out a dinosaur, just something like that. Part of the terrain does come off, so you can look inside of this a little bit better. That way you don't have to peer in the side, but if you wanted to, you could leave this open like a diorama, leave the roof on, and you can see it from the side, and it's perfectly surrounded by a bunch of different foliage. But looping around back outside, one of the big things I wanted to make sure that I mastered for this MOC was actually giving it a really cool Jurassic World look. The roof of this thing is actually made of wood and it's curved, and that's just something that I knew I really wanted to do after taking inspiration from the main street of Jurassic World. I knew I was like, okay, well, Jurassic World, the main street has a lot of different wooden elements to make it feel like you're actually in the jungle, but it also has to look cool and be functional, so why not make a gigantic canopy of log pieces to make it look like the rest of Jurassic World? What I did is I made a gigantic wall and basically put that on its side, so I took the thing off and I decided I would actually flex the part. So what you can do with Lego is, because it has a gap between the bricks, you can actually flex them to make a very slight curve, and if you wanted something to make a full circle this way, it would be absolutely gigantic, but basically I could achieve a small slight curve on this canopy just by flexing the parts a little bit. Is it illegal? Yes. Why is it illegal? Because it stresses the bricks and it's not healthy for them, but I did it anyway, and I'll probably pay for it later, to be honest, because everyone knows brown bricks break. Brown bricks break. That's a tongue twister. But that's all I have to say about this MOC. Again, check out Paulville Mox's version of his own Jurassic World Gyrosphere Station. It looks incredible. I will link his Instagram down below so you can follow him. He makes some incredible stuff. Basically, he's a jack of all trades. He makes anything and everything under the sun. He's just extremely talented. Definitely go give him a follow because he is definitely underrated. But that's all I have to say. So if you guys enjoyed this video, I will link some more Jurassic World MOCs down below so you can check those things out. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and most importantly, take care.